Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we're talking about what may be one of the most significant Nintendo Switch 2 leaks yet, for several reasons. 1. We have photos of a finalized version of the Switch 2 Joy-Con, apparently, and they look to be really believable. But within these photos, it looks like we can extrapolate some information here that might be giving us a really strong hint towards a new feature of the console. And it's kind of surprising if this is indeed what we're thinking it is. And on top of that, because there is also a serial number, it looks like Nintendo has accidentally confirmed this Switch 2 leak. So we have a lot to discuss today. Before we go forward here, let me tell you a little bit about sellmygames.com. It's exactly as it sounds, a website where you can sell your games, and all kinds of games, modern games, retro games, tons of Nintendo games, hardware, and accessories. You can just get started here, search up Nintendo Switch, you'll find what Nintendo Switch you may have if you want to sell one, if you're saving up for the Switch 2, and then you can go to cart and make a quick $126. You fill out your information, they will provide you a prepaid label, you take it to a USPS location, and then you'll be paid promptly in a method of your choosing, Venmo, PayPal, or even a check. And one of the biggest things for me is that sellmygames.com is reliable. According to trustpilot.com, they have a 4.8 out of 5 stars rating. We even see reviews here where the customer service is exceptional. So sellmygames.com is reliable. It's a great, easy way to get some quick cash selling some games or accessories you no longer need. You can check out sellmygames.com with the link in the description below. So on Reddit, they are sharing more photos from a Chinese website of Switch 2. This time it's the Joy-Con, and here we see it. There's quite a few things to point out here. The control stick, the face button, they seem to be bigger than the Switch 1 Joy-Cons, more on that a little bit later. We get a good look at where the shoulder button is and the protrusion. It looks to be larger than the one we saw on the Switch 1 Joy-Con as well, as are the SL and SR buttons, which we sort of figured from all the different accessory leaks and the renders there, but this photo looks to be like an actual photo of the Joy-Con. It doesn't look faked, it doesn't look 3D printed, there's no AI anything, it's just straight up a photo of someone holding what appears to be a real next generation Joy-Con. And so taking an even closer look here, there is this weird little slot here that we'll talk more about later, but also here is what appears to be the serial number for this Joy-Con. And by the way, this part may be obvious, I haven't mentioned it yet though, but the entire inside piece to this Joy-Con right here is blue. It's not gray, it's not black, it's blue, which certainly stands out. But here is the other photo. We can see another look at the blue piece to this Joy-Con. We see the backside to the Joy-Con, and very similar to the Joy-Cons for Switch 1, we can see all the legalese here on the back. And we get a wider view of the shoulder buttons, and they do look to be rather wide, which I think is pretty important. And we'll speak more on that in a moment here. But first I want to talk about how it appears this has been confirmed. So as shared by Nintendo Leaks Center on Twitter, they went to Nintendo's customer support warranty page, right? And when you put in the serial number that we saw on the Joy-Con, this is what comes up. Warranty status. Unfortunately, we were not able to determine the warranty status of your product. Which when you look at that, you might say, well, that's not telling us much. They can't really determine the warranty status of this product. Sure, but when you put in a random fake number, it's just an invalid serial number. This serial number that we've seen in these photos for the Switch 2 Joy-Con, it doesn't say invalid serial number. In other words, this serial number is in Nintendo's system. And if it were to be a serial number for, say, the Switch 1, then something would pop up there suggesting so. Them not being able to determine it, at least from the website there, That suggests that this product is not yet available to the public, but it does exist in Nintendo's database. In other words, most likely, this extremely believable photo of this Switch 2 Joy-Con is real, and Nintendo didn't account for people putting in the serial number on their warranty page, and so it seems like they have accidentally confirmed this Switch 2 Joy-Con leak. But the implications of this photo extend even further here. So taking a look at this side view of the Joy-Con. Yeah, we have this blue accent, which is cool, and we'll speak more on that in a moment. But what I think is a bigger deal here is what we see right here in this little square hole. It looks like we see a lens, maybe even two. And so this is leading people to speculate on a new feature from the Joy-Cons. And what might it be? Well, for those who may remember, not so long ago, Next Handheld, someone who leaked a whole bunch of details supposedly about the Switch 2 on Reddit, shared a whole bunch of things, and they mentioned that there might be some surprise technology with the Switch 2 Joy-Cons, and they mentioned something having to do with lasers. But they also started talking about how the Joy-Cons might have some orange and blue color, and they even shared this of the right Joy-Con with an orange accent here. And so going back to this one, this is of the left Joy-Con, this is blue. So it would then suggest that the right Joy-Con might be orange. And seeing two random colors like this is very on brand for the Switch given all the Joy-Con variations we've seen. But it also seems to support what Next Handheld has been saying. And what's funny about this is that many people have been skeptical of Next Handheld as of late. And we'll speak more on this user in a moment here. But I bring it up because it seems like this photo is supporting his leaks from the past, and he did mention something having to do with a surprise new innovation of the Switch 2 Joy-Cons involving laser tech, as we see here. So this might not be another infrared sensor like we saw on the right Joy-Con for Switch 1, but something else. So what might this something else be? So I'm going on camera here briefly, not my face, you can see my face on live streams, but here, I'm holding two Switch 1 Joy-Cons. These Joy-Cons are smaller than the Switch 2, and I'll show a size comparison in a moment here. But imagine if the Joy-Cons had this little sensor we see on this Switch 2 photo, right? Well, what happens, assuming I have it on the right one here, I put it down like this. I can slide it on this little pad, and these ZL and ZR buttons I can press almost like for a mouse, the left and right click. And I can move a mouse like this, the same way I can move around this Joy-Con, clicking the two shoulder buttons here. But not only that, my thumb is right on the control stick and the face buttons while doing this. I still have access to all of this, and so, in theory, playing in this way, you can have a whole other axis of control where it can function like a mouse, but with a whole bunch of buttons. And if it's on both Joy-Cons, it can work both ways. You could play with two mouses. That might not make a lot of sense, but you know what does make a lot of sense? When you have a mouse, and you have a keyboard, and you can press the buttons on the keyboard while you use the mouse, you could do that from either orientation here. Let's say I like moving things around with my left hand, like that, as if it were a mouse. I could do that, and play normally with my right Joy-Con, or vice versa. And this technology we're seeing here might be for just that. And so what this might mean is that console controls have finally caught up to PC. And that could be very exciting for a lot of people. I'm not much of a PC gamer myself, I play them occasionally. I'm definitely like 99.9% a console gamer. However, I do find this option to be very interesting, and it could have some serious implications for a variety of games. Take, for example, any sort of real-time strategy game. Maybe Nintendo offers an alternate control method for something like Pikmin. Or how about a whole bunch of first-person games which mouse and keyboard have been known to be very good for? How about with Metroid Prime 4? Being able to control the game with a mouse and keyboard-like setup with just the Joy-Cons. The idea of it seems kind of insane, but in the best way possible if this is indeed what it is. I actually now desperately want this to be the case because it's such a smart place to put a sensor there and turn the Joy-Con into a mouse. That is such a smart and genius decision there. If true, of course. And I could entertain the idea that this is just somehow another sensor that works in a different way, but there's nothing else that I think would be as impactful as what we've just been suggesting. So I'm riding with this theory. Let's see what actually happens here. But let me show you this side-by-side comparison of the Switch 2 Joy-Cons to Switch 1 Joy-Con. There are some very interesting implications here. So first, if you look at the right side, this is for the Switch 1 Joy-Con, and by the way, I'm not 100% certain that this size comparison is totally accurate, but we at least get a good understanding of just like the proportions and the shape and all, right? Looking at this, you'll notice that the ends of the Switch 2 Joy-Con are very rounded, more so than the Switch 1 Joy-Con. And that alone, I think, is going to contribute to a more comfortable hold of this controller. But then going beyond that, we also see that where we have the tech for the shoulder buttons and this other additional button where I presume would be to disengage the Joy-Con, although there are some theories suggesting otherwise. But when you take a look at this, it's certainly a lot larger on the Switch 2 Joy-Con than it is for that similar area on the Switch 1 Joy-Con. But on top of that, the space for the shoulder buttons also appears to be larger. So if the Joy-Cons on Switch 2 can be used like a mouse, and you would be pressing the L and Z buttons to use kind of like those two buttons you have on a mouse, making them larger and wider would certainly make them a lot more pressable and comfortable. And so I'm buying into this theory even more so here, and I'm just kind of excited thinking about it. And again, I'm just going to point out that we have already seen that the control stick, which is theorized to be Hall Effect, and the buttons and the SL and SR buttons are all larger as well, making the Switch 2 Joy-Cons just more comfortable to use for games more often. And so I'm probably getting a Switch 2 Pro controller no matter what, but with the way things are panning out seemingly for the Switch 2 Joy-Con, I might be playing more games with my Switch 2 Joy-Cons than I did with my Switch 1 Joy-Cons. But let's now go back to Next Handheld. I want to go back to them because, as we pointed out earlier, there have been some things they've said that seem to have more validity now. And they leaked a whole bunch of things that were supposedly corroborated. There were these photos that came out, and when we scroll, if I go to media, I'll probably see it pretty quickly. Yeah, they put out some photos of supposedly the dock and all these different things, and the issue is that there's AI background, so a lot of people became very skeptical of this user. However, we look at that this shot right here of the orange Joy-Con and what they were talking about there being an orange and blue Joy-Con, and now we've got these recent photos that seem to be pretty believable, especially because Nintendo themselves basically confirmed it. We should still be paying attention to them, is my main point here. And so I'm going to read some of the last things they said on Twitter on December 31st. Quote, "Don't zoom, crop." Quote, "Why are you risking this?" Quote, "You're just chasing clout." I respect the hell out of Nintendo, and their team deserves to have an awesome reveal. I came to answer questions that I could. It never was meant to be about leaking images. I've learned so much. This whole experience has come with a lot of personal expense and time. Traveling to multiple countries over the past few months and see it all firsthand. I may not have an uncle at Nintendo, but I want to respect those who have blessed me with access. It's been a wild adventure navigating the supply chain as an observer. The console is awesome. It feels more premium than ever, and for once, Nintendo doesn't feel like legacy tech. There's so much to be excited about next year as a gamer. Happy New Year's to you and your loved ones. So, there isn't any crazy leaks here. I will say that they have mentioned multiple times that the reveal is happening in January. But them talking about how this console feels premium, how it doesn't feel like legacy tech, that is exciting to hear. And it also doesn't look like we're getting any more information from this person. It's done. The reveal will happen soon, and then we'll know about the Switch 2. We'll learn about what's true and what isn't, or what's still up for debate, but we're going to certainly learn a lot more, assuming this reveal is indeed happening in January, which, by the way, personally, I have been lately talking about January or February. I'm going to now write off February. I think that it likely is happening this month of January. There is just so much smoke right now. I wouldn't be surprised if something happens within the next few weeks here. And you know what? I'm just excited about the Joy-Cons because they seem pretty cool. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.